Good afternoon. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We have an update with TriStar Gold. For those of you just joining now, we will do a presentation and a Q&A session right afterwards. So Nick's going to provide an update on recent news and what's going on at Castelo De Sonhos. The presentation will contain forward-looking statements. If you'd like to know more about those, you can find them on the company's presentation on their website. With that out of the way, I'd like to introduce CEO Nick Appleyard. Hi, Nick. How are you doing?
Good. Thanks, Deborah. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for providing an update. It's been a little while, so interested to hear what's been going on.
Yeah, no, it's been a little while, but there's been a lot going on. So I will jump straight into it. I guess what I'll do, Deborah, I'll share my screen. I'll have the deck up, but I will flick through it pretty quickly because I think most people have got pretty targeted thoughts on what they want to hear about. So let's get going on this. Okay, as Deborah said, will be some forward-looking statements. Still, Brazil, great development area. There's nothing new for people on there, except everything's moving forward. Well, the mines that are operating are moving forward, and it's still a great place to be. We announced earlier in this year a little bit of an update to our economics, so I will skip through this to that result. Gold prices are flying, as everyone knows, so we wanted to, we get the question quite a lot. What does it mean to us? What does it mean to Castelo De Sonhos as far as the economics at these levels? What we actually did is we published updated costs and updated revenue drivers, so kept the reserves and the mine plan the same. And what that resulted in was base case at $2,200 gold, which still seems ridiculously low now, an NPV5 of $600 million post-tax. We actually published it at $3,200 gold, and that was $1.4 billion post-tax again. And just for those who want to look forward a little bit and are optimistic on the gold price, the easy one to remember, $4,000 gold, it'll be $2 billion post-tax NPV5. So the project is stellar. There's no problems there. I think the issues that everybody is asking about for us is to do with the permitting and what's happening there. We put a press release out just recently outlining the status of where we're at. As people probably are aware, in July this year, or August this year, the public prosecutors started a civil action against SEMAS, the State Environmental Agency, and us, claiming that certain things weren't done correctly. The processes that we were put through to get our LP permit weren't correct. And they sought an injunction, and they, obviously a civil suit to, take that permit away. The injunction was immediately denied. The court are going to have an internal hearing on that. They've asked for defenses from us, from SEMAS. They've asked for an opinion from FUNAI, which is the Federal Indigenous Agency. We issued a press release last week, which summarized our response to SEMAS, which is the court. But we've examined the dam breaks when it's full of water, which would never be the case. But you got to look at the worst case scenario. Still, no impact could reach these any indigenous reserves. So, the civil suit against us seems frivolous because there is no potential for this project to impact people who are a long, long way away. And that is the basis of our defense. Just to give people a bit of a 101 lesson on that. The regulations in Brazil call for a 10-kilometer boundary, and if you're in that boundary, you have to do all the engagement with indigenous groups. That's part of the fight here. The civil prosecutors and these environmental agencies are sort of fighting as whether it should be a 10-kilometer boundary or whether it should be based on possible impacts. Because possible impacts is the more conservative, that's the one we've gone with in our defense and said, look, there's no possible impact. And by the way, we're also well outside the 10-kilometer boundary. But as a mining company, if you just argue the 10 kilometers, the public prosecutors will fight against you and talk about impacts all the time. So we've gone straight to the impacts analysis and shown there's no possible impact. One of the good things we thought out of the press release the other day, we summarized the SEMAS, the State Environmental Agency's defense. That is a public document. That's why we were allowed to do that. They filed it with the court and it becomes public in Brazil. It's on the court website. So it made sense for us to summarize that, but it was quite nice that this third party, and SEMAS are one of the biggest agencies in Pará State and the most powerful. So what they say really has a lot of weight. But their defense was even stronger than ours. They sort of said the same things. There's no impacts from this project. It's beyond all the distances required by law. They pushed a bit further, saying that the public prosecutors are getting out of their box and trying to do SEMAS's job. And they also pushed further, saying they weren't just arguing that, no, there's no cause for an injunction on this case. They were saying forget the injunction, there's no cause for a case, and we think it should be thrown out. So that is the push from the state of Pará, the state attorney general, who is signing off on all of this. So it was a very strong defense from SEMAS, and that's sort of why we wanted to highlight it to the investment world there, because it really, filled us with a lot of confidence. So the other update on that civil action lawsuit, we're now waiting for the FUNAI response, the federal agency in charge of Indigenous affairs. They've asked for an extension. They've been given an extension until mid-November. We have been meeting with them. We have a good relationship with them. They have published documents confirming basic facts of the case, such as the distances to the reserves and everything, and that in itself is a very positive act, because the distances they've confirmed are the ones that both us and SEMAS have published, sort of the closest point between the edge of our boundary and the edge of their boundary being 20-something kilometres, 25 kilometres, I think it is. And then in the direction of impacts, I think it's more than 90 kilometres. So it's really positive for us. Obviously now we want them to take the next logical step, which will be that there can be no impacts either. So, but they've got to get to that point on their own now over the next month here. So that's where we're at right now. We're waiting for this response from FUNAI, which we're anticipating as being, I don't know if they'll ever be completely on the side of a mining company, because they are an Indigenous affairs agency, but I expect it to be sort of neutral and come down with and support the facts of the case. And then we would expect to hear from the judge in Q1 next year, which is going to come around pretty quickly. And then really what I see personally is that the investment case is just getting stronger and stronger. Our share price is artificially depressed by this case. It's a frivolous case. The SEMAS response shows that. What FUNAI are doing shows that. What obviously we've done with the best consultants we can find shows that. And if we can get this case lifted, and we believe we can, or get clarity from it in Q1 and get unlocked, that spring is getting tighter and tighter as we're getting closer to $4,000 gold on this project, which is just, sensationally good. So, I think we're looking at a massive, artificially forced opportunity here. If it wasn't for this MPF, my guess is we would be trading, well north of 50 cents towards $1 right now. But all that depression has just come from an artificial, frivolous lawsuit. So that's the overall summary from where we're at now. Deborah, do you have any questions for me? Or any comments?
I've got a couple audience questions. So do we have a date for the hearing yet?
No, we don't. It's based on the FUNAI response, and there's not really a formal hearing from what we understand, or from the way I understand it, is FUNAI will give their response to the judge. The judge will then take FUNAI, SEMAS, and our responses into chambers, effectively analyze them, and then come up with a decision himself on how to move forward. Does he accept SEMAS's position, throw the whole thing out? Does he try and force the people to arbitrate? Or there is an opportunity for him to say, it looks like the facts of this case don't support a civil suit. I want to bring in some independent experts to confirm these facts. And then, and that's been, so any of those sort of things might happen in Q1, but pretty well all of them would be fairly positive. And, I think our lawyers have indicated there's a chance of that him getting in independent experts to confirm the facts. That would just work perfectly for us,
Why does Fune need more time to file? What is their position, and how could they go against the prosecutors when the prosecutor is fighting for their advantage?
Fune is a large, very bureaucratic organization, as many large government agencies are. They're also, even though they are large, they are understaffed with technical people, and they are with more work than they can handle. What we heard and what we were told by them when we've met them is they only want to take on cases that have substance and reality and actually mean something. So we've taken it as positive that they're taking this time now to do a bit more analysis. And we're hoping that they come out of it and say, look, we've only got so many people. We've got 100 cases out here, which might be really important to Indigenous groups and everything. This one is frivolous and a waste of our time. We don't want to deal with it. So we're hoping that this bit of analysis they're doing now is to support that opinion. But obviously that's just supposition on our part at this stage.
In the last news release, it says no studies justify Indigenous consultation at this stage. Shouldn't that say no studies justifies Indigenous consultation for the project?
As projects advance and change, everything can change. So I think it's like a bit of legal weasel words in case something changes in the future. But if we change the design of the project, and there's all the law change in Brazil, that could always change in the future. I think that's just being a little conservative in wording. And as we see it now, there's no consultation justified.
Could you please share the MPF's claim and the main contention in English? What is it that they're contesting?
The main contestation of them, we can share it if someone wants to reach out, send an email to me at info@tristargold.com. The Portuguese version is obviously public document in Brazil, so I don't mind sharing that, and we have our own little translation of it. The main thing was that we did not do the free and informed consent with the Indigenous groups, and then this impacts assessment of the Indigenous groups, which are then a compensation assessment. This is the whole process that's laid out. If you're in the regulations, it just says if you're within a 10-kilometre boundary, and obviously the NPF are arguing that if you potentially have an impact. There were a lot of other little things that they wrote in there which were ridiculous. There's a lot of it was to do with, the company hasn't done X or Y or Z, or, haven't done, a very detailed dam burst study or whatever, not detailed enough, and things like that. But a lot of it was misunderstanding of the public prosecutor. And I think if you see some of the SEMAS responses, says this is only required at the installation license or the operating license version. There's a lot of things that you go as you get more detailed, you have to get a lot more detailed in your engineering. We have, the one I mentioned, the dam burst. We've done a dam burst study, but what we haven't done is LiDAR topography down the whole valley, sort of 10, 15 kilometers away from us, because that's an expensive thing, and you're only going to do it when you're going to go and you want to spend that money to build the project. And then you apply for your installation license and that. So there's a lot of things they were sort of saying haven't done, and they were like, and SEMA's response to them is, no, and they're not scheduled to be done at this stage of a project. They're at the next stage of the project. If you want your installation license, you do those things. That's just the normal process of advancing projects in Brazil. So,
okay, and then I've got a couple questions for you as well, Nick. If anyone from the audience still has questions, feel free to submit them. I'll keep an eye there. Do you have a sense of how this federal public court approaches mining-related matters? Is there a precedent that you can look at?
We've had a quick look at the judge that's been assigned to our case, and previous decisions they've made. And although I don't know, what we've seen seems to be fair-minded, look at the facts and cases, and so we're quite happy with the judge and the legal system there in Brazil on this. There's always a fear that you might get an activist or someone, but making logical decisions. So we're happy with that.
And do you have any sense of what this is going to cost in terms of the legal process for TriStar?
It's always a little tough to guess, but what we're doing now and the responses we've done now, obviously we have to have a lawyer and a legal team, but it's not excessive. It's not a huge amount of money. If we go to that, the one thing that does get a little more expensive is if the judge requests these independent experts to evaluate the facts of the case, because that cost is then borne between, I think, us, CMAS, and FUNA, and the public prosecutor's office, and that can be add up to, but you're still talking tens or $50,000, $100,000. It's not. There's nothing here that's sort of really big numbers as far as a mining project goes.
And are you aware of any other mining companies that are subject to
delay?
Yeah. And are you aware of any other mining?
We are. Yeah. We are. I mean, there is. It's public record in Peru that, in Brazil and Pará State, that several of the other mining companies working there have these civil actions against them as well. So it's not us. And it's not even just miners that is permitted. They are targeting. So if you're trying to upgrade a port facility, you're trying to update a rail facility or a road or a factory, they're trying to stop everything or trying to get everything to get the Indigenous involved to hopefully get to a compensation analysis from those infrastructure projects. So there's no targeting of mining here. It's just targeting of development.
And then with the LP permit in hand, what are some of the next steps that would follow on the permitting front before a potential mine operation? What do the construction license and operating license application processes entail?
The installation or construction license, the main thing is when you get your LP permit, it comes with a set of conditions. And effectively, when you complete those conditions, you can then get your construction license. And those are the sort of conditions I was sort of referring to earlier. Okay, you do this more detailed study on here, do this more detailed study on here, give us more detail on this. Detail out your self-evaluate your evacuation plan in case of a disaster, or detail out all these little things. So those conditions, once they're met, you can get your construction license. So, we would hope to have our conditions met within a year from now. So we'd be in a position to apply for that license fairly soon.
And do you need the civil public action on the environmental license for CDS to be resolved before these two permits can be issued?
No, not at all. This action would not have an impact on those because CMAS can still issue our permits as we move forward, for sure. Unless, of course, the judge is, that's where the injunction comes in place. But as long as the injunction is denied, we're fully permitted and we're still able to move forward.
I believe you've gotten some smaller permits during this process, correct?
Yeah, we've maintained all of our the smaller permits that allow us to drill, that allow us to use water on site, to maintain our fuel dump, to keep an exploration development project running. So with this civil action in place, it hasn't stopped us moving forward with all those minor permits, and everything's been awarded and is going well.
And an audience question here. Just curious, since the LP is not suspended, could you apply for the construction license now?
We would have to complete the conditions from the LP first. That's the one hard rule on this. I know we call it condition 4. There is one condition and it relates to, it's fairly simple, but it just relates to air monitoring of the area. But you got to have 4 seasons. And we've just started that recently. And so that's sort of the time when I said it's about, we can be completed in a year from now.
Drilling, do you have an estimated time drilling would start? And where would you focus in terms of exploration upside?
We don't have a time right now. We've sort of decided that we're not going to rush into the field while we're waiting for this injunction hearing. I mean, there is because of the perception of the drilling there, we don't want to do anything that helps the case of the prosecutor. I mean, if they go, no, look, they're doing stuff, they're moving the project forward, we need this injunction now. If we go, there's nothing happening, we're doing public programs, we're advancing our permitting, the environment, we just don't want to do any slight thing that might help their case. So we're not going to do the drilling right now. So in reality, you're sort of going to be talking Q2 next year for the drill program. As we're funded now, that would mean extension drilling around Esperanza South to extend the high grade zones. That's the plan now. That's the drill program the team have got worked up. But there is also a very good chance that, if we found a partner by then, someone and there's more money available, we may well move straight onto the infill drilling then. So it could go either way.
Okay, then another audience question here. Is TriStar planning to find a partner to mine or construct? Are there companies who have solicited or had interest in the mine?
Yeah, I think I've told people a few times that I've been through construction and startup a couple of times in my career, and I think I understand the risks and the skills needed, and we don't have it. And I think it would be an unfair risk burden on our shareholders for us to do it alone. So yes, we are looking for a partner. We're at the Beaver Creek conference 2 weeks ago, speaking to companies there. There is, I would say, a very high level of interest from a large number of companies. But we're also in the situation, that I described. I mean, I wasn't just sort of making a noise. I really believe that we're going to do very well in this case against the public prosecutor, and in Q1 we'll get clarity on it, and we'll have a really good chance to free up the value that's currently suppressed out of our share price. So engaging too much with another company now is going to be to the detriment of our shareholders. And, I would love to do it at 70 cents and not 17 cents. That'll be a lot better for all of us. And I feel that that's achievable now. So, don't quote me and say Nick guaranteed that, but in my mind, that's where I want us to be. And that's where I'm aiming at. And, Q1 is not that far away. So it's worth waiting and getting that clarity and unlocking that value.
Have you noticed the number of companies interested or coming forward has increased given the gold price environment? It's
still divided because of the public prosecutor. The companies who are working in Brazil understand this process, understand it's going to get dealt with, and they're engaged with us and talking to us a lot. Anyone from outside Brazil is sort of excluded. They look at it and go, that looks scary to us. We don't understand Brazil enough. We don't understand this system. We're not going to engage. So that's the other part of it. I think if we can get clarity on this and get away from this public prosecutor, it opens up the world outside of Brazil as well. Like I said, the companies in Brazil, have all had, even if they're not dealing with the public prosecutors now, they've dealt with them sometime. They've all know how it works, and know we'll get through this, whether it takes a little bit of time or not. So they're engaged and they're interested, but people from outside of Brazil just get scared by it.
Got it. Okay. I don't see any other questions, and you've answered all of mine. Nick, was there anything today that you wanted to discuss that we didn't touch on?
No, I think it's just that, the project is still there. It's still an awesome project. And, there's this artificial depression of the share price that is going to get unlocked at some point. And it's just a matter of when we can do that and how much we can make that beneficial to our shareholders, which is our 100% aim right now.
Okay. Well, it sounds like you're moving through the process and hopefully can resolve this and put it behind you and unlock some of that value. Like you referenced through the session, project economics at current gold prices are phenomenal. Maybe you can run through those really quickly again, just to leave the audience something to salivate over.
Yeah, like I said, the easy number, I'm going to quickly look away at my other screen. I mean, gold is currently $38.50, but the easy number to remember is if gold hits $4,000, we've got a 2 billion post-tax NPV. That's so we're getting close to that now. I haven't got a $3,800 but it'd have to be $1.8 billion or somewhere around that range, which is just ludicrously high values. When you look at us with a market cap of maybe 60 million Canadian, it's and those numbers I'm quoting are American dollars. So, the difference between reality and where we're at is ludicrous, and we've got to unwind that and get that benefit to our shareholders.
Agreed. All right, Nick. Well, thanks. Oh, I see one more question. Hang on. Last private placement shares become free trading today or tomorrow. Any efforts to support the share price in case some start to sell?
Nothing particularly. I don't think it's such an issue. I mean, I think that last private placement went to probably 6 groups, 5 or 6 really good shareholders, long-term funds. So it's not something we've been worrying about at all. I mean, it wasn't like we did a private placement that went to 100 different small placees who would be looking to strip the shares out and keep the warrants. There was just like 4 or 5 funds who are long-term shareholders and are there for us. So yeah, I'm not worried about it.
We are doing some marketing and some conferences this fall. So rest assured, investors, we are trying to get the story out there and get some new buying in.
Yep. And we'll be in, London in November.
Awesome. Well, thanks for your time, Nick. Thanks to the audience for your questions and your participation. As always, if anyone has any follow-up questions or would like a meeting, please feel free to reach out. And thanks for your time, Nick.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Deborah. Okay. Bye-bye.